I do think this is a dangerous game for the Niners. We'll see what the deal is with Brock Purdy. Very, very dangerous game for the Niners. But ultimately, I still think the Bills win the game. I'd be surprised if they lost.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Picks Friday, Finish Strong Friday, Winners Friday edition of the mighty RTFP. And yes, I did actually remember to pick the winners. Those of you that spread the word via social media, at Ross Tucker Pod, I'm at Ross Tucker NFL, or rate and review the show and then email it to me, Ross at RossTucker.com. Make a comment on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL, or take advantage of any of our glorious sponsors. I will tell you at the end of the show who the winners are for this week. So if you've done anything to go the extra mile and your name might be Steven or Andrew or one of the other ones, I suggest you listen to every second or watch every second of this show, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. I don't know how many of you have to work on Friday like I do. I'm doing San Jose State hosting Stanford, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, CBS. As a reminder, I love when you guys take a screenshot of me being on camera at the start of the game and hit me up on social media with it. That's almost a guaranteed repost. So I don't know how many of you have to work today like I do, but if you do, finish strong for your family so you can enjoy the rest of the weekend. I'll get to my picks momentarily, and I'll get to the winners at the end. But first, we're going to talk about all the games yesterday. It's rare on a Friday here where we have not one, not two, but 3 games to break down from the day before. It's big show time.
The Big Show.
All right, Ross. So what were your takeaways from the 3 Thanksgiving games we had?
Well, it's wild because the first one ended up being the best one, even though the Lions were totally unstoppable for the first half of that game. There were like the whole first half, Jack, they had more first downs than the Bears had offensive plays run. But the Lions weren't able to finish. They kept settling for field goals. It was only 16-0. Then even in the second half, they missed a field goal. They fumbled at the 5 as the Bears mounted, honestly, a really impressive comeback. Caleb Williams and the Bears deserve a lot of credit for the way they came back. I thought Caleb played awesome in the second half. And then they had one of the most disastrous last 40 seconds of a game I've ever seen. They're in field goal range. Then I forget there was a penalty. Then after that, Caleb Williams gets sacked. The only thing you can't do in that situation, there's still 32 seconds left. They get one more playoff. Everybody's killing Eberflus, and I get it, but the idea was right. Run a play, it's third down, and then use the timeout after that play with 20 seconds left or 15 seconds left and kick the field goal. I don't know what took Caleb Williams and the offense so long to call a play, and then he throws it downfield and the clock runs out. That was the issue more than anything else. The other games, listen, Overshone and Micah Parsons were awesome for the Cowboys on defense. Rico Dowdell finally had 100 yards and a touchdown. The Cowboys could actually run it a little bit. Drew Lock had 2 touchdown runs. Dexter Lawrence dislocated his elbow. And then for the Dolphins-Packers nightcap, it just didn't seem like the Dolphins wanted to play in the game. I mean, early in the game, I thought the Packers were way more physical on both sides of the ball. They were running it right at the Dolphins, running it right over their throat. They were hitting them. The Packers were dropping passes. Now, I'll give credit. The Dolphins made a game of it later on and made it competitive and at least made it somewhat entertaining at the end, but they were not up to the task of playing the Packers. Before we get to the picks, very, very important, before you go out shopping today, if you're thinking about getting anything for any of the children in your life, kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, whatever, you've got to check out Future Fans. First of all, those guys are on the show in August. Secondly, they're listeners. Third, they have an amazing product. It's futurefans.com/Ross. You are locking in two things. Number one, you're locking in quality family time, whether that's for you and the children or somebody else and the children, and you are ensuring that they know all about our beloved sport of football and will want to watch it with you. You're doing two amazing things at the same time, and it's only $49.99. Go to futurefans.com/Ross for the best Black Friday deal of 25% off. Lowest price of the season. It'll be going back up, so do it now. Futurefans.com/Ross. Futurefans.com/Ross. My friends at Smirnoff know there's no I in football. It's a we thing. Best enjoyed together. Good drinks, good folks. Smirnoff's the world's #1 vodka, an official vodka partner of the NFL. And we got the holidays coming up. More opportunities to watch football and make delicious Smirnoff cocktails. Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Christmas. Smirnoff and the NFL are with you every step of the way. Make sure to drink responsibly. Take a minute. Make a plan. Never drive impaired. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age. Smirnoff, we do game days.
Want to know which team is going to win every single game on Sunday? Then listen up.
All right, Ross, we're going to start with Black Friday. We got the Raiders. They're at the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right, I'm going to take the Chiefs. Now, I haven't seen the entire context of what my former teammate Antonio Pierce said about the Raiders being the worst team, the Chiefs the best. I think he was talking about narratives and trying to eliminate narratives. So I prefer to just say that right now unless I actually read the articles or listened to the whole clip. At any rate, they're going to start Aiden O'Connell. Now, weirdly, over the years, it feels like once a year and sometimes on holidays that the Raiders have some success against the Chiefs in games like this. I'm not so sure exactly how or why that's the case. I am not envisioning that. Obviously, it's a hated rival and all those things. I'm not envisioning that being the case in this one with the Chiefs and the Raiders and Aiden O'Connell. I don't know that the guys for the Raiders fully believe in Aiden O'Connell. I mean, he's been hurt for a while. Now he's coming back and he's thrown right into playing at Kansas City. The interesting thing here is that the Chiefs defense has not played quite as well as of late. So that's something that we should all, I know I will be, we should all be watching to see how the Chiefs defense fares, but I ultimately still think they'll win the game, right? I mean, I'd be surprised if they didn't. To Patrick Mahomes' point, though, he wants them to win one of these without actually having to have it come down to the last play. And I think that'll happen. I think that's what will go down today. Let's go 27-17 Chiefs. Seems like a fair pick.
Next up's a really fun one. The Chargers, they're at the Atlanta Falcons.
It is, yeah, and I think we talked about this on the Even Money Betting podcast, which I highly recommend everybody checks out, but I'm expecting a lot of points in this one. You know, the Chargers defense, Steve Fezzik's been all over this. Everybody thought they had a really good defense. I think that was in large part based on some of the teams they were playing against earlier in the year. I'm not sure they really are that good on that side of the ball. So I like the fact that I think there's a lot of points in here, and it feels like it's been forever since the Falcons played, right? They're one of those teams that had a bye week, and so we haven't seen them in a while. But last we did, they lost to the Saints in the first game with the interim head coach, Darren Rizzi. Then they go ahead and they lose to the Broncos. They get embarrassed. I got to think Falcons, after the bye, after all that stuff, I got to think the Falcons are going to bounce back in this one. And let's hope for their sake that they do. I guess the question becomes, you know, how much do they bounce back? I'm going to take the Falcons to win the game. I really, this is one where I could go either way, but I'm going to say a team coming off of a bye as opposed to a team coming off having played on Monday night, in a hard-fought game against the Ravens. Give me the Falcons in this one. They're underdogs. It's only by a point, but it counts because I'm picking them to win the game outright. I think it's 27-24. Atlanta wins. 27-23. Atlanta wins a high-scoring game.
Ross's Underdog of the Week.
Next up, we've got AFC North battle. The Steelers, they're at the Bengals.
This is another good game. I'm looking forward to it, right? I mean, I know that the Bengals have not had their best year, but think about this for a second. The Bengals are favored by 3 points in this game. I mean, that's pretty wild, isn't it? That the Bengals are favored by 3 points. They're 4-7 against the Steelers team that's 8-3. And so the reason why I point that out, because I know a lot of you on this show aren't into betting, it just goes to show when I do my power rankings on Tuesdays, there's a reason why I do the power rankings the way they do. If you just did it by record, nobody would have the Steelers or the Bengals ahead of the Steelers. And I don't, by the way. But it just goes to show you, a lot of people think the Bengals are going to win this game. I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't pick the Steelers to lose two in a row. I can't pick the Steelers to lose a close game against the Bengals. We've seen the Steelers and Mike Tomlin so good in close games over the years and this year. I think it's a good game. I think it goes back and forth. I think it's 23-20, but I'm taking the Steelers, so that's another underdog, another upset, Jack.
Ross's Underdog of the Week.
Next up, the Houston Texans. They're at the Jags.
Feels like a huge game for both teams. We're at that stage where it's like, hey, Texans, are you at the adult table this year or not? Are we treating you seriously, like a serious contender this year, or are we not? Meanwhile, for the Jaguars, it's sort of like, hey, guys, like, if you don't turn it around now, your coach is gone. He's probably gone anyway. It sounds like Trevor Lawrence will play. That makes the game more compelling. I think the Texans are better than they showed against the Titans. I do not expect them to lay a second egg in a row. Can you imagine if the Texans lost to the Titans and Jags back-to-back weeks? I don't think it happens. I think the Texans' D-line is too good. And I think Stroud has a bounce-back game against a bad Jags defense. So I'll say Texans win this one. Probably a competitive game. All the Texans' division games are one-score games. 24-20, Houston, more faith in Stroud late than I do in Lawrence, even though Stroud's been a little bit up and down.
Next up, we got the Arizona Cardinals at the Minnesota Vikings, who did just pick up Daniel Jones.
Yes, we didn't mention that yesterday on the Thanksgiving episode because we had recorded that with Kyle the day before with all the stuff going on with Thanksgiving and all that stuff. So, yes, the Vikings got Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones is on practice squad, which is really smart, right? Because he gets to continue to be in a building, continue to learn, continue to work, continue to be available to sign with another team should a better opportunity crop up. But in the meantime, he's not really making any money because I think the practice squad money is just offsetting what the Giants owe him. So I don't think he's really making any money. He's basically working for free. So kudos to Daniel Jones working for free the way that he is, because, hey, he's out there trying to get better and trying to make sure that if something else does pop up, he's in a good situation elsewhere. As for this game, this is a juicy one. I expect the Cardinals, there's a lot of good games this weekend. I expect the Cardinals to bounce back from that performance against the Seahawks. And I think this is a back and forth awesome game. I haven't seen an update on Cam Robinson, the Vikings left tackle, but that would be a significant injury to keep an eye on in this one. You know what? I think the Cardinals win the game, Jack. I don't usually have this many underdogs, but I'm doing it. And it makes sense, right? Because we picked a lot of these underdogs on the Even Money betting podcast. I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals to get the win outright in Minnesota. of all places. I think Kyler Murray has a big game. I think the injuries for the Vikings are too much. I think the Vikings lose a close game. They've won most of them this year, 26-23 Cardinals.
Ross's Underdog of the Week.
Next up, we got the Indianapolis Colts at the New England Patriots.
Well, this is probably one of the least exciting matchups. The Colts are not out of it yet, but it doesn't seem real likely, right? It doesn't seem real good at this point for the Indianapolis Colts. Patriots, that was real bad in their last game. In fact, both these teams are coming off of really disappointing performances. There's no question. I mean, Patriots got blown out by the Dolphins. Colts kind of got blown out by the Lions. I think this is a close, competitive game. I don't think either one gets blown out. It's a showcase game for these two young quarterbacks, right? Like, where's Anthony Richardson in year 2 of his development versus where's Drake May as a rookie? Give me the Patriots to bounce back and get the win at home. I think getting back home after an embarrassing performance, I think the Patriots, I'm picking another underdog, New England, to win this game against the Colts. I don't think there's a ton of points in this one. I think it's 20-17 Patriots.
Ross's Underdog of the Week.
Next up, the New York Jets. They are hosting the Seattle Seahawks.
We're about to find out whether or not there's anything left with Aaron Rodgers and this group this year. Very, very interesting to see. I think that they might put forth a pretty good performance, but I cannot pick them to win the game. I mean, now I will say this, Seattle has had a couple of thrilling wins against divisional opponents back-to-back games. Now they got to fly to the East Coast. This is a prime letdown spot for the Seahawks, and the Jets are coming off the bye. In fact, I'm going to do it. I just changed my mind right there because of that. Back-to-back, huge games for the Seahawks against divisional opponents. Now they're going to the Jets. The weather won't be good. The Jets are coming off a bye. The Jets supposedly stink. I think Rodgers plays well. I think the Jets play well off of the bye. I'm going with the Jets to win the game 24-17 over the Seahawks.
Next up, a game you mentioned as a sneakily good matchup earlier in the week, the Tennessee Titans at the Washington Commanders.
And by the way, that Jets pick was yet another underdog. This is crazy. Now you know why Steve and I took so many underdogs on the Even Money Betting podcast this week. It's because we like them outright, let alone getting the points in a lot of these situations. I'm going to take the Commanders. The Titans got their win last week against Houston. They're playing well. I think they'll be competitive in this one. I'm not picking the Commanders to lose a fourth straight game. And after losing to the Cowboys, I think it's time that Washington rights the ship again and gets this thing back on track. I don't think it'll be easy, but I think Levis taking too many sacks or a turnover are the difference in the game. I'm going to say it's the defense for the Titans is pretty good. So let's just say 20-17. The Commanders get this win that they desperately need to have over the Titans. 20-17.
Next up, the Carolina Panthers. They are hosting Tampa Bay Buccaneers in an NFC South battle.
This is a fun game too, because I like when teams that have been bad, like the Titans, like the Panthers, I like when their young quarterbacks start to play better. I like when they start to be more competitive towards the end of the year. It makes these games more fun. And fun is what we're here for. Fun is what I'm expecting in this game. I'm expecting a decent amount of points, too. Now, ultimately, kind of like last week with the Panthers against the Chiefs, late in the game, I'm expecting Baker Mayfield. I have more faith in him to make the play late than I do in Bryce Young. That's just the reality. But I think this is a fun game. I'll go the same score that they had last week, which is unlikely, but who cares? 30-27. Baker and the Bucs take down Bryce and the Panthers in a fun one that I'm really looking forward to. Probably, I think there's going to be more points than other people do.
Next up, the Los Angeles Rams are at the New Orleans Saints.
And even though the Rams are 5-6, Jack, and the Saints are 4-7, the Rams, they're both kind of still in this thing. I mean, the Saints are only 2 games behind the Falcons. Falcons could easily lose against the Chargers. Saints could easily beat the Rams, and then they're only 1 game back. And the Rams are only 1 game back in the NFC West in that jumbled division. It's kind of cool that the Lions are really good, the Eagles are really good, but in the other 2 divisions, it's really jumbled and really competitive. The only team that has a pretty firm grasp right now on the division in the NFC is the Eagles, because the Commanders keep kind of faltering and the Eagles have that head-to-head win, which was big. I'm going to take the Saints. I'm going to take the Saints. They got the momentum of winning 2 in a row before the bye. So they got some momentum. They're believing in their new coach and what he's doing and the energy he's bringing. So the Saints are the underdogs, and I'm taking them yet again. This is crazy. This never happens, Jack. How about the Saints? I don't think there's a ton of points in this one. I think it's like 23-21. The Saints get the win by 2. Underdogs.
Ross's Underdog of the Week.
Next up is arguably the game of the week, the Philadelphia Eagles at the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, definitely the game of the week here for the Ross Tucker Football Podcast because, number one, it's the 2 closest stadiums to me, to my house. And then number 2, they are 2 of the top 5 teams in my power rankings. So, and 2 of the 5 teams, I said this multiple places earlier in the week, including on the Ross Report on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. 2 of the 5 teams right now, I can legitimately picture in my head winning the Super Bowl. I can see either one of these teams winning it. It's a toss-up game for me, Jack. I could go either way. I'm taking the Eagles for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's a short week for the Ravens, and they had to put a lot into it in their last game against the Chargers, right? That was the Harbaugh, oh my gosh, can't lose to our coach's brother, family affair, all that stuff. And it was a short week for the Ravens getting back from L.A., 6 a.m. Tuesday morning to have to game plan for this Eagles team. The other thing is the Eagles are just on such a roll. They've been dominant during this whole run. Maybe it stops, but I'm gonna pick that roll to continue till I see differently. They're underdogs as well. 27-24 Eagles. I think there's more points in this one, and you can let the doggies out or whatever we do now again, Jack.
Ross's Underdog of the Week.
Next up on Sunday night, the San Francisco 49ers. They're at the Buffalo Bills.
So I will be there and very much looking forward to it, other than all these reports of snow. So this is the thing about snow games. When I'm watching a snow game in Cleveland, in a warm, awesome outdoor area in Houston, Texas, and I see the snow, I love snow games. It's amazing. When I have to drive to Buffalo and drive back, not as much. Not as big of a fan of the snow games. So let's hope that it snows before, and maybe it can still. I don't know. Let's hope it's not. Let's hope it does not affect my drive after the game, because that's not fun at midnight in traffic in snow. I've done that before. So maybe if it does snow during the game, just like flurries, so it looks nice, but it doesn't affect the roads. At any rate, I'm picking the Bills. Now, I said this multiple places. I do think this is a dangerous game for the Niners. We'll see what the deal is with Brock Purdy. Very, very dangerous game for the Niners. But ultimately, I still think the Bills win the game. I'd be surprised if they lost. They got a really good team. They've been on a roll as well. Niners, just even prepping for this game, they got a lot of guys on defense that are guys either I haven't heard of or are like journeymen. I mean, this is not your older brother's Niners defense at all. Give me the Bills putting up a decent amount of points. I think it's 27-20. I'll give the Niners offensive stars some props here, but I think it's 27-20 Bills.
And we'll wrap things up with Monday night, the Cleveland Browns at the Denver Broncos.
So I like the Broncos to win the game. I do think that the Browns are going to be competitive in this one. You know, the problem with the Browns is they've kind of been up and down this year, like a roller coaster for whatever reason. Let's hope that's not the case in this game, because then it'd be a down game and they'd get blown out on Monday Night Football. Nobody wants that. I hope Jameis and the guys come to play and it's a fun game. I'm still going to take the Broncos because remember, when I make these picks, I make them based on like if you guys were betting somewhere or putting your money on what I say on the show. So I will take the Broncos to win the game outright, but I do think it'll be somewhat competitive. And I don't think there will be that many points scored in this one. I think it's like, let's say 21-20. Bo Nix and the Broncos win by 1 point, 21-20. Shout outs, by the way, we got to give out the winners, Jack. I almost forgot. The YouTube winner, Michael Mitchell, he gave the shout out, youtube.com/RossTuckerNFL. The Spread the Word winner via social media, Steven Soroka, he made a comment on the Kyle Long video on Facebook. Yes, Ross Tucker Pod on Facebook. Steven Soroka made a comment on the live stream of the Kyle Long show yesterday on Thanksgiving. And then the sponsor confirmation email winner was Andrew Scrignoli. This was awesome. He said, this is my second order from myfrontpagestory.com. First one was for my wife. She cried her eyes out. Hopefully I get the same thing with my brother. LOL. That is awesome, Andrew. Love to hear that. myfrontpagestory.com. Other than that, have an awesome weekend, everybody. I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out, myfrontpagestory.com. Heck, I just did. I don't need to give it a shout out. Andrew Scrignoli just did. Myfrontpagestory.com. Be like Andrew. Forward it to me, ross@rosstucker.com. I guarantee you'll get a signed autograph. Backofficescheduler.com. Humanheadnyc.com. Sports